Right, welcome everybody. This is Mike Klingler, and I'm going to be discussing cryptocurrency wealth building. I have the Bitcoin symbol here because it's the granddaddy of them all, right? It leads the brand of cryptocurrency. But there's actually a lot more going on behind the scenes than just that. I know a lot of you know about that. Some of you don't. Some of you have been involved with ICOs, which are all these other cryptocurrencies coming to market. There's just all kinds of wealth being made. It's incredible. I'm going to show you that. I'm gonna have to talk to different groups here because I know I've got advanced people, I've got beginners, I've got everybody, I've got people who are fearful, I've got that middle class conditioned mindset, and they're worried about regulators and what can change. I'm gonna talk about all of it. So sit back and enjoy the show, maybe take some notes, try not to get in analysis paralysis, but just kind of take it in because I'm gonna show you how I and many others that I've been working with are making a killing. I mean, just there's never been anything like it. And I'm going to establish how it's happening, what the risks are, and how we've minimized those risks as we've learned things as we went along. I'm going to pass that on to you today. So the main focal point of this is all going to circle back around to Davor coin. And whether you've heard of Davor coin or not, it's an autopilot strategy that allows anybody to just kind of leverage the experience and the setup that these experts have in the ICO and arbitrage markets, and I'll talk about what those are a little bit more, just how the profits are generated, and allows them to, you're lending to them and then they're paying you incredible returns back because they know how to leverage the market. Now, I don't care if you're skeptical, I don't care if you have a really, high threshold to risk, a really low, threshold to risk. I'm going to break all this down so that one way or another, wherever you fall in that category on risk threshold, you can get incredible returns and do it in a way that is comfortable to you and that allows you to accomplish the goals that you set your mind on. It's really, really incredible what's happening. I want to make sure that everybody understands it. Those of you who are advanced, obviously I have to talk about some things that you're very well aware of, but I believe that I'm going to be breaking things down. They're going to be extremely helpful to you to take advantage of this autopilot platform. You're already, if you're advanced, aware of these autopilot platforms. I want to help you who are advanced understand why Davor coin is going to dominate the market. If you're in BitConnect or are knowledgeable about that, if you've been knowing what's going on with SEC regulators like in Texas and British Columbia, Canada, and how that's affecting all this, I'm going to be able to break that stuff down, but you have to sit through the other stuff I'm going to cover for the beginners. And I think it's going to be helpful for you to see how I frame that for beginners so that they can easily understand it. Because I know a lot of you who are doing extremely well. I've got friends that are turned a couple thousand into 1 million already in the ICO market. For those of you that have been in that circle, I'm sure it's been frustrating for you to be able to articulate to those that you love around you of how they can get involved and minimize risk. I think you're going to notice the way I explain this to those that are beginners, you're going to be able to pick up on how you can help people understand how to move forward and be really successful with it. So it's going to be a longer webinar today, or video, I should say, but I can't encourage you enough to sit through it. Get through it, understand what's going on, and I've got something here that I think is going to be rather significant in terms of value for those that are advanced and beginners and everyone in between. So some illustrative examples I'm going to be sharing today. I'm going to come back around to this a little bit later, but I'm going to talk about how you can churn $100 into $10,000. Yes, really, in a relatively short period of time, and relative to other options out there, an incredibly short period of time, $1,001 into $100,000 in an even shorter period of time. Strategies for seven-figure returns, really. And then I'll talk about minimizing risk, maximizing gains, and other little nuance strategies that you can employ to fall anywhere that you want to with your goals, with eyes wide open about what the risks are and how to minimize those risks with these strategies that I'll be sharing with you to hit the target and be able to move forward and navigate this whole industry of opportunity and have a lot more to work with from what you're making with this. Okay, so for those that know a little bit about lending platforms, Davor coin is exceptional. It's paying 7 days a week, and I know that Bitcoin already did that and others too, but USI did not. So those that were in USI, this pays on the weekends as well. It pays higher returns, much higher than USI, has been steadily much higher than BitConnect. Again, I'm going to explain how they're doing so well and why the risk is minimized with Davor coin as well. And then also for those that were in USI, you get 100% capital returned. So this is a huge variable. There's many, but another big variable for why this is so much less risk than something like USI was, which was something that I had to learn along the way, that you get your capital returned even after you get the daily return. So it's on top of it. Now, again, those of you who don't understand how these platforms work, this will all make sense later. I just wanted to speak to those that do know a little bit about the platforms for a moment, particularly USI, because they did things very differently. This pays much more, and you get 100% of your capital that you put in back at the end of your contract, in addition to the daily returns, which are 7 days a week and not 5, and much higher. Those of you in BitConnect are used to that. And those of you who are in BitConnect or who have been, I'm going to address a lot of the things that have been coming up for you as well and show you why Davor coin is definitely a place to park at least part of your portfolio, and it's going to really, really skyrocket from here. I'm going to explain that, break it down, and show again why the risks are low, the returns are high, and I'm going to address some of the big concerns in the industry. Okay, so here's some of the big concerns in the industry, right? How can returns be so high? I know it's more of a beginner question, but I'm going to talk about that. What about risks? This is more for the more advanced and intermediate, and maybe even some of the beginners, like SEC regulators. A lot of people know in the United States and Canada, this is a bigger issue, and then some smaller countries in Asia, like South Korea, for example. But it's the bigger issue for US and Canada, because the SEC and some state regulators like Texas just love to go after companies don't fit the mold. This is an innovative, transformative industry, and just like any past innovative, transformative industry, incredible opportunity like the internet boom in the 90s, right? But regulators go sniffing around, don't understand it, and try to force an old archaic model onto the new world, and it creates complication. And for some people, that's scary and risky, and it does require fluidity for you to be able to move and shift and be aware. I'm going to break it all down so you understand it, and so you know how to navigate it going forward, so that you've minimized the risk significantly. You understand what's going on, and it's not a fear thing. A lot of middle class mindsets are really fear driven. And I came from a middle class mindset. I have loved ones that are still in that mindset, and so I understand and I sympathize with it. But I'm going to see if I can help those of you who are stuck in the middle class mindset while I still address the more advanced, people in ICOs that are way beyond all that. I want at the same time help the middle class fear-driven mindset understand how the world works a little bit. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to expand on that a lot more in another video, but at least touch upon it today by helping you understand these risks, but understand how we can minimize them and not be afraid of them, but actually use them to our advantage in many ways, and know how to make good decisions to allow us to get these incredible returns in this incredibly transformative industry without so much risk and fear. And then where's the money coming from, right? It's kind of related to the first question of how can returns be so high. Exactly where's the money coming from that allows a platform like Davor coin to be able to drive this the way that they do? I'm going to talk about that really clearly. But first, we're going to circle back around to Bitcoin, because as I said at the beginning, and as we all know, it is still the granddaddy of them all. Bitcoin is leading the brand for the blockchain technology. There's no question about that. And a lot of people are looking at it and they're saying, man, it's already gone so high. How could it possibly go any higher? The reason why it's important to discuss this, especially, I want to address this for those of you who are more advanced, is because when we're looking at the whole cryptocurrency market, the health of and the volatility and the issues around Bitcoin have a tremendous amount to do with the stability and the opportunity in the entire cryptocurrency market. Now, that may one day change, and that's up for debate, but right now it is leading the pack in terms of brand and people's awareness. So that's why it's important to kind of start here as the foundation and address a common misconception that Bitcoin's already gone up so high so it can't go up anymore. there will be corrections. There will be ups and downs. But if you understand the industry and you understand the magnitude and the transformative impact that the blockchain technology that is driving Bitcoin, or I should say that is underneath Bitcoin, that's what Bitcoin is. It's a blockchain technology. It was the first to be packaged and brought to market in a big way, and it's leading the branding, as I said. When it is in a position to lead the pack of something as transformative as blockchain technology, it's basically what everyone is looking to. Kind of like how on the international markets, people kind of base everything off the dollar. Again, that could change. I'll talk about that more in a minute. But right now and for quite some time, we can expect it to continue to dominate. So we need to look to it. We need to understand it when we're looking at other cryptocurrencies and looking at, kind of establishing for people, where's this all going to go and how big is it going to be? If you see it's going on this parabolic meteoric rise, you might look at that and go, oh man, it's going to drop, it's going to correct. But what you have to understand is it has been correcting. It's just going so far because it's impacting so many different markets, economies, and uses, the blockchain technology itself, and Bitcoin being the leading brand that people are aware of. The scale and scope of how big it can reach and how high it can go is beyond anything historically, in models that we've had in the past that we can really look to. It is going to go much higher, is my point. If we look back a little bit here in history to get a feel for this, and again, sit with me if you're advanced and you know all this already, we need to address those that are brand new before we can get into the details of Davor coin and how we know that it's such an incredible opportunity. So people understand where the money's coming from and how big this is going to go and how secure it really is. July 1st, 2010 to January 12th, 2013, check this out. So, it started out very, very low. And I don't know exactly what the lowest it was. I think down in the dollars, of course, at one point. But we look here as we approach July 2011, and it spiked up well over $30, which right now comparatively is extremely low, right? Massively low. But look what it did right away. It corrected. And when we look at the longer chart, I want you to notice you can't even see this blip on the screen. But if you were one of the people who bought at 30 back then, and then not even a day later, it dropped down to, down to a couple bucks. Let's say, I can't tell exactly what it was. It looks like around, if you look at my cursor, dropped to $3 within a day that it was over 30. You lost 10 times what you put in. So if you put in $1,000 just before July 11th, and maybe it was late June, I can't tell exactly when it was, around late June. Late June 2011 is actually what that was. If you put it in there before this marker, it dropped way down to just a couple of bucks not long after, is my point. It looks like these aren't days, sorry, these are years, 2012. But my point is, in a very short period of time, people lost 10 times their investment. People were panicking. You need to understand that it's corrected many times. Now, of course, if you had done that, if you had bought back then, everyone would have thought you were an idiot if you did it. And yet, where would you be today? If you had bought at $30 and now, it was at 20,000 recently, now it's somewhere around 14,000, you would have made, exponentially more on your investment. But during that correction, it didn't look like it. So what you need to understand is there's going to be corrections that look really scary in the short term, and that's going to continue to happen. Let's look at the next slide. There's another one here just before January 2014, and it was up over $1,000 a share, a Bitcoin, and then it dropped by January 2015, about a year later, all the way down to about just under 250. So again, from people lost a huge sum of money in that period of time. And of course, everyone around them would have been saying, yep, I knew it. I knew it was going to collapse. And yet, if you had bought it over 1,000 at the highest point in history at that time before January 2014, and then as long as you held on to it, didn't give in to the fear mongering, and understood blockchain and understood the magnitude of this and the scope of this, then you would have been sitting pretty now, and recently as it went up to 20,000. You would have multiplied it by 20 times if you sold then, or now it's at about 14,000 at the time of this recording. It's 14 times the return in a very short period of time, 14 times. when people at the time would have been telling you, yep, it's collapsing, it's a bubble. Look, it's really important to understand there's good bubbles and there's bad bubbles. If you look to the internet boom in the late 90s and early 2000s, that was a massive bubble. And there were all kinds of opportunities that didn't last the test of time that still made people's fortunes. And if you look back in history before that, at every major transformative boom and developing industry, even back to the railroads being built across the United States to the West and all of the booms and busts that created, that's where the opportunity is. A middle-class mindset that's fear-driven cannot partake in those unless they make a shift, a calculated shift in the way they think. You will miss every great opportunity in your life. The same fears and the same things were always there throughout every major opportunity. What I'm going to say is, I'm going to show you today some strategies that are so low risk that still allow you to do exceptionally well at low risk. So even if that's you, and even if it's so scary to put in $100, it from my perspective is idiotic not to do it. Now, I don't mean that derogatorily. It just doesn't make any sense not to do it. I mean, it's deep primal fear stopping people from at least putting in some, a week's worth of entertainment money or a month's worth of entertainment money if you're on the poverty line. Anybody can do exceptionally well in this. You might make a few mistakes or what have you, but if you invest what you can afford to lose, which could be your entertainment money for a week, you can still get exceptional returns. Even if you're on the poverty line and you've got to use your entertainment money that you would save up for 3 months, you can change your life around with this. And those of you who have some money set aside that can take a little bit more risk, if you follow the strategies I'm going to show you, you can do extraordinarily well. And for some of you that follow some of the strategies that I'm using, set up future generations of your family for life. I mean, it's absolutely incredible what you can accomplish. John McAfee and lots of other people were saying it's going to go up to over 1 million of Bitcoin. So people say, nah, 500,000 within a couple of years. Many people believe 40,000 to 60,000 this year in 2018. It's kind of irrelevant. No matter how you look at it, though, my point before I move on to the next slide is Bitcoin is leading the brand. Anyone who says the blockchain technology is amazing, sometimes you get these people on television, although it's less and less now, saying the blockchain's amazing, but Bitcoin isn't. Bitcoin's a scheme, a scam, but blockchain's amazing. You know that they're being moronic because, I mean, there's nothing wrong with them doing that, but what they're doing is they're positioning themselves to take out the number one while they tried, because they didn't get in on it. They weren't early in Bitcoin. So they're trying to knock down number one brand and, come out with their own cryptocurrency, or maybe they're working with the, Federal Reserve to, maybe they're a bank working with the Federal Reserve to create a blockchain in their own cryptocurrency, whatever it may be. They're trying to jockey for position because they didn't get in on Bitcoin. That's why they're saying that. But it doesn't make any sense to say blockchain technology is awesome, transformative, going to change the world, which no one intelligent has ever disagreed with. It doesn't make any sense to say that and then say, but the first one to come to market and to innovate that and to package it into that's leading the whole branding of that blockchain is a scheme. That doesn't make any sense. Where this is at now, at the time of recording this, somewhere around 14,000 something, is nothing compared to where it's going to be. It's just the beginning. And if you don't get in the game and you don't get involved and you don't take it seriously, at least with something, even if it's small, like I say, your entertainment money for a month, I don't know what to say. You're never going to be able to take advantage of an opportunity like this again. It should be obvious. Now, what I'm going to be talking about is Davor Coin, which is a platform that goes beyond just Bitcoin. Bitcoin's involved. Bitcoin you could consider a cryptocurrency that's leading the brand of all cryptocurrencies right now, at least. But there are so many other cryptocurrencies, and there's so much more going on behind the scenes that I'm going to break down today. What Davor Coin allows you to do is you lend, and I know some of you are already familiar with this, but I need to break this down for people that are new, is you lend Davor Coin, which is another cryptocurrency, to Davor Coin, which you obtain by purchasing with Bitcoin. So it starts with Bitcoin, then you get Davor Coin. Well, you can get Davor Coin with other cryptocurrencies too, but usually we start with Bitcoin. And you're basically lending them Davor Coin. That's the method of exchange that they use. And then with that Davor Coin, they're basically investing with their expertise. I'm going to talk about how we know their expertise is actually worth something. Like we can know that. We can know that they know what they're doing, and I'll break that down. And they are doing what's called arbitrage, and they're also doing ICOs, and they're making incredible returns. I'm going to break all that down. Like, where's the money coming from? How are they making incredible returns? We took a glimpse here at Bitcoin a moment ago. We're going to take a closer look at all of this and see where the money's coming from, because I think it's really important to understand on a foundational level before you can really feel safe and secure about moving forward with something like this. So I mentioned ICOs and arbitrage, but when you work with a platform like Davor Coin, you set it up on autopilot. You can walk away and let them take care of it, and they're just giving these insane returns daily that you can turn into Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies or back into cash. And I do mean insane returns, and I'm going to show that to you. And again, you can set it up on autopilot. Now, I know some of you who are more advanced want to be able to keep playing in ICOs, because I've got friends, for example, that just started like 2 months ago, and they've already turned a few $1,000s into $1 million. These aren't unusual stories at all. Let's first talk about arbitrage trading for people who don't know what that is, because this is one of the ways that Davor Coin is making these incredible profits. This is a snapshot actually that a friend of mine took on his computer screen from the news showing how this works. It's a really good representation. It says Bitcoin prices as of 10:50 a.m. and I think this was on December, I don't know what day, December 2017, just not long ago from recording this. So these are Bitcoin prices across several different exchanges, 5 different exchanges. Kraken, GDAX, Gemini, Bitfinex, Bitstamp. These are 5 of many different exchanges where you could purchase Bitcoin along with other cryptocurrencies if you wanted to. But these are different prices, right? 17,212 on Kraken, GDAX showed 17,150, Gemini 17,039. These other two down in the 16,000s. So across these different exchanges, there's different prices for the same Bitcoin. And so these large organizations that can move large sums of money around very quickly are able to just instantly make money all day long, similar to how banks use software programming and now AI and an administration that they've got set up, an administration to be able to move money around very quickly on NASDAQ or New York Stock Exchange almost just automatically. And they're making money all the time, buying and selling and just doing what the systems tell them to do. These other organizations are able to do the same thing, like Davor Coin. And so when you have a ton of Bitcoin in Kraken and you sell it, and within a nanosecond later, buy the same Bitcoin for 16,957, you just made a tremendous amount of money with no risk, because you're just moving it from one exchange to another. So as long as you can spot this, if you have the administration and the infrastructure to be able to do that all day long, you're making huge profits. You just need the capital to work with. And again, that's where we come in. We lend them our Davor Coin, and then they turn that into other cryptocurrencies that they're constantly just trading through arbitrage, and they're making incredible sums of money all day long, just moving it around extremely fast, constantly, over and over and over again. That's one form of how they're making insane amounts of money. The other, which Davor Coin is exceptional at, is ICOs. And these are, again, cryptocurrencies that are coming to market for the first time, often in pre-launch. So only a certain network of people know about them. And there's such a high demand for them that they usually just end up selling way early to raise huge sums of money. I mean, tens of millions, sometimes hundreds of millions, sometimes $1 billion or more within months, and there's a huge number of people who wanted in who just couldn't buy it fast enough. This is happening all the time. The demand for these are so high. We're talking on a global scale all throughout the world. So the market is just incredible, and everybody wants to be involved. So everybody that knows about it. And because people are seeing these returns, it's just growing more and more. Now, this is similar to what we saw in the internet boom with the penny stocks of internet, but on a whole different scale. Whole different scale. And again, a lot of them are crap, but people are still making a killing. And then a lot of them are exceptionally good and have real value, and those will have long-term benefits. But it's incredible that because the demand for these is so high, how these people who are launching the ICOs are in the driver's seat, and they're literally like raising tens of millions of dollars in minutes, and have literally thousands of people that wanted to buy it that couldn't, just because it went so fast. and then it goes to market, and then it just keeps going up. Sometimes after a certain point in time, it goes down when people realize, oh, it was a crap one, just like with penny stocks or during the internet boom. But in many cases, if you know what to look for, you can pick one that will continue for a very, very long time. But a lot of people don't even care because it's just such a moment in history where the demand for people moving into this market is so high and the innovation and everything is so incredible in terms of new ideas of how to use and apply the blockchain. That so much is being poured into this. Remember when I talked about good bubbles and bad bubbles? A good bubble is like the internet boom, or when the railroads went in, or the gold rush that created businesses like Wrangler's jeans and Levi's jeans, for example. These booms all throughout history. Let's use the internet as the most recent example. There were bubbles everywhere, but it created innovation. It's part of the process. And sure, that a lot of the companies during the internet boom weren't any good, but through that process came the winners. But during the process of when the boom was happening, a lot of people got wealthy on even the ones that busted. It's just so flush with opportunity, and will be for some time now because it's just started. It's just ridiculous, even if you have a low tolerance to risk, not to be involved to some level or another. So anyway, ICOs are the big hot thing right now. The challenge is there's so many, and I don't know if you can read this. I'm just going to read these to you. Here's a list of some big ones, percentage-wise, what their gains have been since their launch date. Like this one launched in 2013. We're 2,774,000% increase. I'm not even going to get out the calculator. It's insane. 2,774,000% increase. This one's 833,600% increase. This one's 569,000. This goes on and on and on. This is where the money's coming from, guys. Again, it's hard to wrap your mind around. Let me go to this article real quick. It's hard to wrap your mind around until you really understand what the blockchain is doing. Once you understand what the blockchain is doing and that it's touching every economy, every market, every niche, and innovating new solutions to problems we didn't even know existed, that it's on a scale way beyond the internet, then you start to understand. But just looking at this article, here's some of the top ones, just in just a few. 1,477% ROI on investment, 332,500%. I mean, get out the calculator. I don't want to do that now, but just enter in $1,000 and go times 332,000%. I mean, we're talking about turning a very small amount of money into millions. Here's another 152,000. Now, these are the big names. I understand that. I'm going to talk about the smaller names that are doing incredibly well too. I know a lot of you have heard of these and you're like, oh, those are the unique ones. There's a lot of them having an insane return. Davor coin being one of them. A lot of you saw BitConnect over the last year or so skyrocket. Davor coin skyrocketed in the last couple of weeks and will continue. It's not just the big ones, guys. It's endless right now, and this is going to continue for some time. And again, for those of you who are concerned around regulation and SEC stepping in, because of course they want to control the game, right, of how money gets raised, that is a concern. But I'm going to talk about how we can minimize that risk, and if it were to happen, how we can know we're safe with Davor coin. I'll talk about that in a little bit. My point is that's where the money is coming from. So Davor coin is doing the ICOs for us, doing the arbitrage for us. We can set up on autopilot, get incredible returns. I'm going to talk about those returns in a minute and give you some illustrative examples of how you can accomplish some incredible goals just with them, and then use that seed money to invest into ICOs or for your kids' college education or retirement or whatever it is that you have your goals set for. Incredible opportunity here with Davor coin. Now, again, we can know that they know what they're doing based on the fact that they just launched their own coin and prove they know what they're doing by being able to see that coin launch and within about a month go to $1 billion market cap. So we know that they have the networks, the knowledge to leverage ICO launches with the money we lend them, or with the DAV, we lend them DAV coin. That's why it's not a security. I know some of that's still up for debate and it could change in time, but as it stands right now, there's no precedent for a model like this that's using cryptocurrency, where we're lending them cryptocurrency and then they're only touching cryptocurrency and then they're paying us in cryptocurrency. There's no major precedent, a court precedent that that's a security. And until there is, this is free game. I do want to say, when I talk about how much you can earn and all that, I'm just giving illustrative examples. These are not guarantees. When I talk about what I've earned in this video or other videos, I'm giving them as an educational component, not to tell you that's exactly what you're going to earn. Obviously, things can change and adjust, and I'll talk about that more here, but hopefully you'll see enough to know that, again, even if you're using your entertainment money, there's huge opportunities here, even if you have a very low risk threshold. I'll talk about strategies in a bit, but I need to explain things in a way that you can understand them. But while I'm doing that, I don't want any of this to be construed as a guarantee of what you'll earn. The variable rate that they pay per day can change. So for example, let's look down at the bottom of this for a second. Let me make this larger. Here it's showing you with the variable rate when we lend them DAV. Again, and by the way, if you don't even have Bitcoin yet to buy DAV, we'll show you how to get it. Don't worry about that. So we'll show you everything that you need to know. But basically, you start with Bitcoin, you buy DAV with that, and then then you loan them the DAV, and then these are the returns they're paying you. And it shows here, if you look up here on the top, depending on how much you loan, this is like how much the DAV is worth, like $100 to $1,000 worth of DAV. Then it pays you a different rate. And for those that lend between $100 and $1,000 worth of DAV coin, you get a daily variation rate. And down here it's showing you what that rate is. Now, when you take the money out, you're able to turn that back into Bitcoin. So understand, even though you're paying them with Bitcoin, and even though they're paying you back with basically DAV, and I'll break that down in more detail later, but basically they're paying you back in DAV, which you can turn back to Bitcoin. Obviously, you get to walk away with, incredible returns that you can use however you want to in fiat currency. But we're operating in Bitcoin and DAV on their platform so that it's not a security. Down here at the bottom is what they paid this last week. So 0.91% on January 13, 1.48% on January 12th, a little over 1% on the 11th, a little over 1% on January 10th, 1.74%. These are the daily variation rate. So if you lend $100 to $1,000 worth of DAV, they hold that DAV for 299 days. And during those 299 days, you get the daily variation rate, which varies. And that's why I say there's no guarantee of earnings, because it varies. It depends on how well they're doing. But if you look historically, and they give you the 30-day average and their weekly average, and I'll show you inside the site where it shows that later, you can see it. It's all very transparent. So as you lend larger sums, like if you lend 1,001 to 5,000, then you get more percentage return. And this is per day. On top of that. So if you lend, let's say 1,001, and it was January 12th, you don't just get the 1.48%, you'd also get another 0.1%, so you get 1.58% for 239 days. And then the contract expires, and at the end of that contract, they give you your original $1,001 back, which again is different from USI. For those of you in USI, you just got paid your daily returns. And by the way, in USI, you only got paid 5 days a week, not on the weekends. Here you get paid 7 days a week. So these are actually the days that you're getting paid. And then at the end, in USI, you didn't get your capital back. You got it back through the returns. It would accumulate. But then at the end, it was just over. And you got what you were paid daily from the percentage. Here, not only do you get these incredible daily returns, which are a lot higher than USI, at the end of this 239 days, you get your $1,001 back on top of that. In fact, let's look at a strategy of turning $100 into $10,000. Now sit with me here, because there's so many different strategies. This one is $100, and I'll show you how I came up with 1.53% interest per day. I'll talk about what I mean by compounding through the reinvest daily for 304 days. Now, I know a lot of you that are experienced with this are going, oh, 304 days, I don't want to leave it in that long. I know others of you saying, oh, I don't like to do the compound reinvest. I'm going to talk about that. Sit with me if you're advanced and have that perception. I want people to understand what you could do. And I want, because it really starts a baseline. And of course, there's a lot of different things we can do. We can choose not to reinvest, and then we don't earn as much, but there's less risk. We can choose to get it much sooner and earn less. There's lots of options, but this gives us a baseline. And I will share the other options, the realistic options that are shorter number of days and so forth, for people that don't want to wait that long. So let's go look at this. How did I come up with the 1.53%? Let me go back into, this is my Davor Coin back office. You can all register for free and have access to this and play around with this, and I strongly encourage you to. Once you register, you'd come in here and click on lending. Let me just show you real quick. You click on lending, and I have lots of training videos for you to figure this out. But just to show you real quick, after you register, you come back here, go to lending here on the left, and then click on profit calculator. Again, I'll show you all this in other videos. I just want you to see the big picture of all of this in this comprehensive review today. Okay, so this is a dynamic version. So we enter $100 here for this example. And how did I come up with the 1.53? Let me close this real quick and show you. You see up here where it shows like what they paid this last week? In the profit calculator, down here, if you look at my cursor, expand the video and make it larger if you have trouble seeing this. For those of you who are beginners with technology, put your cursor on the video and you should see an icon in the lower right that you can click on that expands the size of the video, so you can see all this better. But right here it says profit estimation based on average lending interest rate, and it shows what the average it paid with its variable rate over the last 7 days and what its average was over the last 30 days. I feel like the last 30 days is a better representation of what it might be. We don't know that for sure. That's why there's no guarantees with all this stuff, right? We don't know what the variable rate's going to be, but we get a pretty good idea. Sometimes it's going to be higher, sometimes it's going to be lower. I feel that the last 30 days is a better representation of what it's going to do because it's a longer number of days. So that, I'm looking at that as the baseline. If it ended up being less, it's still incredible. This is the number that I came up with because it's a longer number of days and seems like a better representation of what's possible. So 1.43% is what it says. And then again, I know some of you are more advanced. You argue, some of you do the capital lock, some say don't do the capital lock. I'm going to click on that for illustrative purposes. And again, I'll talk in more detail in a minute about other strategies and strategies without capital lock and all kinds of stuff. I just want to show this illustrative example of how to turn $100 into $10,000, and this is how I came up with this percentage. So 1.43% was the average variable rate it was paying over the last 30 days, plus 0.1% if you choose the 120-day capital lock. And if you do that on $100 worth of DAV, which is 0.8517 DAV, you're going to come up with only $641. So now why is that? Because this is for 299 days plus 120 days, and you didn't reinvest what you're earning back. You didn't reinvest what you're earning back. So in other words, as soon as you put this in, the next day you're going to start getting paid. If you go look at mine, you'll see that I've only joined a couple of days ago. I've already earned $8,360 in total from my lend. You're going to start seeing this accumulate as well with your lend. Obviously a lot smaller if you do $100, but it's going to start adding up. When you look at this calculator, it doesn't show you how much you would make in that time if you reinvest that back. So check this out, to turn $100 into $10,000 in 304 days, here's what you do. I just showed you how I got to the 1.53% interest. We go to this other calculator. And again, I teach you all this. Like, this isn't complicated. I'll show you how to, where you find this calculator. In this calculator, it shows you what you're going to get if you reinvest it back. Those funds you're getting every day, instead of taking it, if you want to get to the $10,000, check this out. I enter 100. It was 304 days. It was 53% interest? Is that what it was? Yes. And then we say interest duration, 7 days a week, and then percent profit reinvest 100%. Now, I'm going to talk later with strategy how you could set this at 80% and take 20% of the money. You could do all kinds of things with this. You could reinvest half of what you're getting every day and take the other half. I'm going to say 100% because I just want to show you for illustrative purposes how to get to 10,000 from 100,000. I hit calculate. Sit with me, guys, because there's so many strategies here, and it's so important to understand what you can get out of this. And you can see here, it takes you to over 10,000. So $100 was just turned into 10,000 in 304 days if you decide to just keep reinvesting what you're getting per day. That's what the compound reinvest means for those duration of days. Now, I know a lot of you are saying, again, I don't want to do the compounding all along. I want to take some of that money. You can play with the calculator. After you register and come on in. You're going to be able to access our group. We'll show you how to access that calculator. You can even find one on your own and see how much would you get if you took half the money every day. You know, obviously then you wouldn't have 10,000 at 304 days, but you'd still have a lot. Okay, let's look at the next illustrative example. It starts to get exciting. Turn $1,001 into 100,000 in 285 days. We get to the 1.63% because you might remember that when we looked in here at the calculator, when you put in $1,001, you get another 0.1%. So that boosted us up to 1.63% when we also do the capital lock at 120 days. But this calculator here doesn't show, inside the back office of Davor Coin, doesn't show you how much you get if you take the money that you're getting and keep reinvesting it. So I'm going to go back to the other calculator, which again, once you get registered, you come into our group, which I'll show you at the end of this. You know, we'll show you all these resources and we talk about all this. We talk about all these other strategies. But let's just show you this real quick. We put 1,001 in worth of DAV. The interest rate now is 1.63%. The term was it 285 days? It was a less number of days. Yeah, 285 days. So we're getting paid on it 7 days a week. Again, I'm going to go ahead and, for illustrative purposes, to show you how to turn about $1,000 into 100,000 in only 285 days, I'm going to put that we're 100% reinvesting, that we're taking everything that we're getting per day and putting it back in. I want you to know that you could come here and you could see, okay, what if I took half of my earnings per day and I went and spent that on bills or whatever, and I put the other half back in, what would I end up with? You can do all of that, but I just want to show you this for illustrative purposes. You can play with the calculator. But I'm going to hit calculate, and boom, scroll down. So now we see total principal, deposit plus profit over 285 days, 100,388. So we have turned $1,001 into 100,000 in 285 days. Play with the calculator, see where you end up, and create a strategy that makes sense for you. But it's absolutely incredible. Now I want to talk about minimizing risk and maximizing gains. So we're going to go into strategies now that minimize risk and maximize gains. So here's what I suggest, and you choose the one that makes the most sense for where you're at with your risk threshold, with where you're at personally in your life and what your goals are. Again, you should never risk more than you're willing to lose in any endeavor. I do believe that what we have here is the safest way to see significant returns, life-changing returns. You can play with that calculator. Let me go do that real quick and say, okay, like what if I put in 5,001, and I can't remember exactly what that interest was, but let's just say it's somewhere around 1.63%. That's reasonable. And then what's the number of days? We go look at the calculator. The number of days on 5,000 is 179. So you could say, okay, let's leave it in for 179 days. And let's not do a boost. Again, let's not do that boost where we add more days to it. Uncheck all of that. You could play with the calculator and see what would it be like on this percent profit reinvest. What would it be like if I kept 50% per day of the returns, but I went ahead and re-lended the other 50% in returns? Where would I end up? And in this case, 179 days with a $5,001 investment, you end up with you'd turn the 5,000 into 37,764 in a short period of time. And the point is, in this case, you'd be taking the daily returns as you do it. You can play around with this and see if you want to keep some of the money and not reinvest it all in order to minimize some of that risk, you can do that. But you can play with that calculator and figure that out. But that's one way to minimize risk. Let's talk about risks and regulators. I know a lot of you that are more advanced know that the SEC is sniffing around the entire ICO industry. Banks don't like it because they're getting cut out. And of course, then they got hedge funds and IRAs and all this stuff. It's all set up to make them lots of money, and we get a very small percentage, and we're supposed to be happy. Now the ICOs come along and it's open to everybody. It's global, it's international, and the regulators don't know what to do with it. And they're trying to figure it out. But I got to tell you, just got to kind of put things together and realize, okay, first of all, Goldman Sachs just announced that they put together a team. to invest in ICOs. So when you see big banks getting involved, that's definitely actually going to help us in the short run, because they're just trying to obviously make profit on it right now. That's where they're at. They're trying to figure out how they're going to regulate it and everything the regulators are, but they're working with the banks to figure it out. They're trying to, of course, over time, to try to figure out how they can make it so that the banks make bigger money than we do, and that we have to go through them in some way. But that's going to take a long time for them to sort out, because this is international in scale, and they have to be very, very careful, and they know it. They can't just cut the US off completely, or we won't be the Silicon Valley of the world anymore. Silicon Valley and what happened with the internet boom benefited the United States tremendously. So they can't just take measures that are going to completely cut the US out of innovation and allow other countries to dominate. You got to understand that. You have to be very, very careful. So that's one thing that's going to slow down them just putting a stomp on everything. It's going to be like China or something. China shut down Facebook and didn't allow Facebook to be there. The US isn't going to take that kind of action. It's not good for the US brand. I mean, I know they're doing a lot of things that aren't good for their brand, but that's just like a whole nother level. That's moving from the police state to the fascist state. They're not gonna go there that fast. They're gonna be calculated about it, because they don't want to risk the military's strength and hold in the world, and our security from that perspective. And they're not going to want to knock off the United States dominance in terms of technological innovation and advancement. Now they're risking it already, because they're already making it more difficult and making some organizations uncomfortable letting us get onto ICOs, but they're not clamping down like hard, like making it so it's impossible to do. And I really don't see that happening in the short term for that reason. They don't want to stomp out completely the United States, position in the economy worldwide. It would be absolutely insane, and it would hurt their interests. So, because they want our tax dollars, they want us to be, they don't want to push us into, a third world country. So, or even to be at a major disadvantage. So that's one thing. The other thing is just the complexity of putting it together. Every time they start to get their mind wrapped around it, their attorneys and everything around the industry and how they might be able to patch up loopholes, a new loophole crops up, a new innovation of the blockchain or a new use of all of this is invented in making it impossible for them to nail down and sum up. It's going to take a long time, is my point. Now that's the big picture. Why do I feel so safe with Davor Coin in this turbulent industry? First, we need to go back to what I said earlier. During the internet boom, there was all kinds of new regulation that needed to be written. There were all kinds of things changing, opportunities that were fantastic one day, and the next day they were looking at a new regulatory policy that was going to change their market and model. It was happening all the time. What you need to understand is all throughout history, this is the case. Wherever there are big returns and big opportunities, there's going to be that turbulence. You've got to become fluid with it. Again, don't invest more than you can lose. Understand what you're getting involved with in that regard, but understand that if you don't get involved in that regard, you'll never have big returns anywhere. It's never going to change. Whenever there is a developing industry, that's going to be the case. I do not believe that there is a safer, lower risk way to get these kinds of returns that there ever has been in the past or ever will be again than there is right here. Does that mean there's no risk? Of course not. What's funny is it's only the regulators that create the risk right now. That's what's really incredible. What you have to understand is the worst scams in the cryptocurrency market are nothing in terms of the scams that we're all perpetuating every day with our institutions. And in fact, the blockchain technology itself is challenging all of that. And there's nothing that they can do to stop that in the end, because it's decentralizing. And they're all going to have to adopt this some way or another. It's going to take them forever to figure out what to do, how to regulate it. And in the end, they're going to realize they can't fully regulate it to the point of removing the decentralized nature of blockchain. That's why it's so exciting. That's why it's so big. And all I can say to those of you with low risk threshold is, yes, there's going to be these waves and these shifts and these tides, and regulators will come in and all kinds of things will happen, just like it did in the internet boom. But if you can't figure out how to navigate that, or worst case scenario, if you can't take some entertainment money, like every couple of months, take a percentage of your entertainment money and put it into an opportunity of this scale and scope, then you'll never, ever, ever be able to take advantage of any kind of amazing opportunity. You shouldn't even be listening right now. But those of you that, at the very least, even if you have low risk threshold, at the very least, you're able to find some entertainment money and take a percentage of that and start putting it into this incredible opportunity, starting with Davor Coin. And as we go forward, I can show you how to take advantage of other opportunities as well. And as things change and so forth, becoming fluid with that, you can make a fortune. For some of you with a low threshold, of risk, a small fortune. For somebody with a higher threshold for risk, an incredible fortune, and a fortune for future generations. Just employing the strategy I showed you today, $100, it's not a huge risk for 99% of the people that have access to this video. And yet it has an opportunity for incredible gains. And like I say, if you take both strategies, you choose the long-term strategy for larger gains, and then you also do a shorter-term strategy so you can get your capital back. We're really not talking about incredible risk here. But again, is secure in the sense that if a regulator like Texas did step in, which I think is far less likely with Davor coin, and it is secured by $1 billion market cap. They have hundreds of millions of dollars. So if the worst case scenario happened, which is far less likely and probably pretty far out, but even if it did, they're secured to be able to pay you back what they owe you and go continue business internationally where innovation is still in existence. I don't know what else to say. If you can't even get together entertainment money that you spend and put a percentage of that into this new era of cryptocurrency, there'll never be an opportunity for you that changes your life financially in any serious way. But I do want you to know, that my expertise is business systems, educating people. I do it in a very candid way, very transparent, level-headed way. And I think because of that, it's a big, and just my experience with it and understanding the simplicity of it. When you find the right opportunities at the right time, being able to educate people about it. I think because of that, I've been extremely successful, not just myself, but the people I share my systems with. So those of you who want to, you can actually earn additional cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Davcoin, turn that into fiat currency, obviously, by using my system. I wanted to show you the affiliate program. For those that want to use my system, I can teach you, I can show you, and I can give you the same funnel I use to be able to refer people. You're educating people about this and all the opportunities and everything, the follow-up emails and everything that I create, and you get a percentage on when others come in and they lend. And it's significant. If you look at my account, again, my earnings are not representative of what you're going to get, but it's my earnings, so it's all I got to show you to show that it works. I joined just a couple of days ago, and you can see in my lending wallet I have 26,000. 8,360 of that in the last couple of days was made from my return on capital from what I put in. The rest, 18,000 came from referring people. So my system definitely works. Doesn't mean you're going to make exactly what I make. Your results are going to depend on, how much you promote it and who you refer it to. But I can show you a lot of that stuff. One of the first things that I do, we can build a funnel for you. We call it our VIP system. But you do need to meet certain requirements to get into that VIP system. Like, for example, you need to do a lend, and then I'll build you a funnel. My team will build you a funnel, the same exact one I'm using, and I'll teach you how to get it out there so you can get referrals and get incredible returns on this affiliate program. So again, even if you don't understand all of that, even if you don't want to participate in that, I strongly, strongly encourage you at the very least. And by the way, this is a snapshot of just the lead capture page that you get built and people come in. If you're part of our VIP and they get follow-up emails and I'm educating them, but it would be leading them to your Davor coin affiliate link so you could receive those commissions. But even if you don't want to participate in that, at the very, very least, register in Davor coin. That's free. You might see a button on this page that takes you right in and you can register, and then you have access to the back office and the calculator and everything. You start poking around. One way or another, once you're registered, and if you're having trouble registering, reach out to your sponsor, reach out to the person who referred you. They're your guide, they're your lifeline. They're the ones who can help you figure out everything that I covered and more. They're the ones that can help you figure out how to plug in and how to do stuff when you run into challenges. So definitely reach out, let them know who you are. When you register into Davor Coin, you should see their name somewhere or some kind of username, some kind of identifier, but hopefully you know how to reach them already. Definitely do that because they can help you tremendously. And then step 3, join our group. Your sponsor will give you the exact link to our group that I just showed you where we can help you with so much stuff. In there, one of the things that we have are step-by-step, really easy to follow tutorials. I mean, literally easy as step 1, 2, 3. Choose a strategy you're comfortable with that I talked about earlier today with an amount you feel comfortable with just to get started. So that's it for now, guys. Again, follow these steps and don't procrastinate.